Hey, how are you guys? This is Anna Warren, and this is my informative speech. I want to talk to you about something today that can be hard to talk about, and it is dealing with life and death, literally. It's important to know that you have a plan put in place prior to your departure from this world, because if not, that can leave your family and your loved ones with hardships and burdens that they didn't expect to have to bear. The cost of a service, a funeral, it can get pretty high. And I had a service for my dad, and it wasn't the big extravagant services you can have, and it still costs a very pretty penny. So it's important to know, while you're still here and living, that you can go ahead and take care of these problems now with things such as like a will. You can appoint someone to be your executor of estate. You could go ahead and pay for your services while you're here before you pass, and then no one will have to do with anything. That would be wonderful, wouldn't it? My main point for this is there needs to be an awareness what it can cost you or your loved ones, your family members, anyone, for your passing. Excuse me. When you die, you have to be, this is what I've experienced, you have to be pronounced dead by, I'm not sure if he's called a medical examiner or a doctor. I just know that when my father passed, when we got to the hospital, we had to wait until they could determine or call time of death. And it seemed like it took an eternity. But when you're dead, you have your life ceases. You don't breathe. Your heart doesn't beat. Your blood quits flowing. That's it. Just kapowie. That's it. So when you have a funeral, that is for after you pass. You can be cremated. You can have a service and then be cremated. You can have a service and you can be buried. You can be buried in the ground. You can be buried above ground. There are so many options. You could be put back in soil. You could be in somebody's houseplant. So there are so many ways that you can have a funeral. It's just a personal preference. So after you pass, if you don't have life insurance, you're expected to come out of pocket to pay for these services. My father's service was almost $6,000 because he had no life insurance, didn't pay for it, had nothing, not a dime. He had an accidental death, excuse me. And we had to make payments on it until we could sell a few things and pay off the entire funeral. You don't want to make it harder on those who still are living when you're the one who is deceased and can no longer make a good sense of life because you're in the ground. You're with whatever you believe in the afterlife. And now when you make payments to the funeral home, they never really specified with us how long we could pay on it. I just believed it was probably till we could get done paying on it. I have 4 siblings, and we all paid $50 a month until we could pay off the whole entire bill. But let me tell you, if you don't pay that bill, they will come for you, because I received a letter about non-payment for this, that, and the other, and I'm like, wait a minute, we've paid it. So pay for your funeral, because if not, they will come for you. Oh gosh, I want to talk about legally what I had to do after my dad's passing. All of my siblings believed that it was a great idea, since I lived here in town, in Fitzgerald, where my dad passed, where he lived, that if something needed to be done, I would be the executor of estate and I could take care of it. I will never do it again. It cost $1,200 for a lawyer to write it up and make it official. I have had the most trouble, most headache. I will never do it again. But if you are in a good situation and you go ahead and do this and everything is kosher through the whole process, you have nothing to worry about. I have a different situation in a different family, so mine did not quite work out like we wanted it to, but that's okay. I have learned a lot through this process. So what does it really cost you? I looked at some of the caskets, and they were about $3,000 to $5,000 a piece. Then they have to embalm you, or this is Polk Funeral Home here in town. They had to embalm my father within 24 hours. That's $1,000 by itself. It was $300 to transfer my father from the hospital to the funeral home. And then they have to do the makeup. If something is where they need to fix it and cover it, they have to do that. They make the little cards to say, hey, this is who you are. This is your prayer, your message for your obituary. You know, they give you those. Those cost just, anything costs. Flowers cost us $400. And I mean, we didn't get the whole fancy shebang type flowers. So just think about that. Imagine if you spent $400 on flowers. How much would you spend on an average funeral? Just to go get the burial plots and the permit for it, and the permit for them to place a headstone on there is about $800 here in town for one person. Not including casket, not including embalming. My dad had half the service. He was embalmed. He was cremated. It was almost $6,000. So guys, imagine, just imagine how much money. It is so much. Like, I just can't. So why would you want to add all this added stress to somebody you love when you can prevent it while you're here? Go ahead and take care of your business. If you don't know how to do it, go to a lawyer. Go to a funeral home. They will help you plan your funeral and figure out how you're going to pay for it. And I'm going to tell you, life insurance, if you can get it through your job, is not that much a month. Or you can go ahead and start making payments on one before you pass away. Don't leave your loved ones here on earth with burdens because you don't want to take care of it before you leave. I have experienced way too much. It's hard for someone to find closure when they're worried about what sibling is going to do next, what your mother's going to do next. Where am I going to find the money to pay the funeral? If I don't pay the funeral, what's going to happen? Just make it easier on your loved ones. Talk to them, communicate them, love them while they're here, and make it easier on them when you're gone. Thank you so much.